G'day, citizens. Welcome to Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Agrid. How you doing, mate?
I'm alive. It's the standard response these days.
Alive and
One
kicking.
for one day. It won't be true,
Yeah.
but I hope it's not for a long time.
Yeah. So before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you for those people that do extra mile on Patreon at the end credits. Right, Agrid. So this week I wanted to talk about, you and I were talking about how they would potentially release Squadron 42. So this is just
Well,
a start of a discussion that I kind of want to pull the community in on and kind of give them where we're at and see if they can kind of add to it in the comments, and we can kind of have a back and forth and just see what pops out type of thing.
yeah. Well, I think part of it came from we were actually talking if Squadron 42 is released this year, which is kind of one of the theories we've kind of been running with, just based on all the little dots and pieces, or whether
Yeah.
they give a launch date for Squadron 42 this year.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, you start off with how's it going to impact Squadron? How's it going to impact Star Citizen?
Yeah.
And so that got us thinking. And then the question was, how is they going to launch Squadron? What's going to be, what are going to be the ramifications, or how are they going to do that? And what can they do to maximize
it was
exposure? And
well, like you said, one of the small things is the PU will probably be a little bit quiet for a while, things like that, because people will be playing Squadron.
I kind of expect the PU to be dead for 2 or 3 weeks while people are playing Squadron. Now,
and then people that don't haven't invested into Squadron, will they pick up Squadron? Things like that. That was other little things that
Yep. But we kind of also think that in the long run, Squadron 42 is going to be the driving force or a driving recruiting aspect for Squadron, or for Star Citizen. I keep calling it Squadron, but for Star Citizen, because people will play Squadron and then they'll want to play. I wish I could keep going with my character. Well, you can. You play the PU, and so it's kind of that avenue. And so the question that we start to ask is, okay, how are they going to release Squadron? And there were a couple of things we thought of, or possibilities. And then as we're thinking about, we could also see
counterpoint
the problems inherent with that. So
which is good to have, because it means you're having a balanced aspect. But I think that's one of the reasons why we kind of want to share this with you, because you can kind of look at the two extremes of how it's going to go. And yeah, so for me, the first thing we started thinking about was like, they are clearly polishing the ever-living crap out of this thing. We've seen posts from developers saying to that point, like, they've not seen them essentially polish things this much in games before. So they really know that they've got to get this right. We've seen posts from Chris himself talking specifically about Cyberpunk and the things that went down with that. And he said, that won't be my game, and things like that.
And we see with the monthly reports, are constantly, they're just polishing, fixing, bug fixing.
And we're seeing, and that other thing that you and I have been looking at too with the monthly reports is you can clearly see it's getting more gameplay for Star Citizen and less new features for Squadron, because they're just polishing the ever-living shit out of it.
Yeah, well, one of the latest things I saw in the monthly reports was they were talking about doing motion capture stuff for Squadron, but it wasn't motion capture stuff because we need to do this for the game to work. It was motion capture stuff so we can do background filler stuff. So again, add the polish and add that nice stuff for it.
And they talked about that at CitizenCon too, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's all of that type of polishing and upping the ante is where they're at now. They've got it down, and they could close it off like that. But when they're adding stuff now, it's to add quality and polish and finish, and so we know, as you were saying, mate, we know they really want it to be perfect. They really want it to be good, because that's going to drive the sales, and that, as we think, is also going to drive sales for Star Citizen.
So there's kind of like four corners to this type of thing, right? So you've got the PC release, the console release, and then you've got the time frame, which is the other two corners. So you've got CitizenCon this year, all the way to Q1 2025 because of legal reasons and legal documents and things like that. So that's the time frame essentially, right? So you can essentially see where it kind of moves within there, right? So if you kind of work out the extremes, we can probably figure out they're their extremes, I guess, right? So within those boundaries, you can kind of like bring it back, right? So if we take that time frame, go ahead.
Just adding in onto that time frame, you said, the PC release and a console release. I'll just caveat that because CIG haven't said we're doing a console release.
No,
that is something we fully expect.
Yep.
Based on what we see, and I expect Squadron to be in console at some point.
It's pretty. I'm going to go one step further and say it's pretty definite because there are so many things that have kind of leaked and been said over the years. I would be absolutely baffled if we did not see one. And you've said yourself in the past, like every Chris Roberts game has had a console release type of thing.
No, to me it makes sense. It makes sense in terms of sales. It makes sense in terms of everything else. It doesn't break any promise of Squadron being a PC game because it's PC first and then being shunted into.
So that's another thing
as opposed to the reverse.
So let's talk about that then, because So this is one of the things that is probably the biggest part of this video. Really, is are they going to release them at the same time? Or are they going to have a PC exclusive window? Are they going to use PC people as testers? Are they going to use people that own the game already? Like, is that one of the reasons it was removed from the store? Is it done that way? So if you now own Squadron, they're going to release it to you early so you can get, excuse me, I got a bit of indigestion, rid of the bugs. Oh, damn. So other people, when it goes out to console, they don't have those bugs. So like one of the things that I've shared,
even when they do the sales to the wider community for PC.
But like Microsoft and Sony charge like upwards of $35,000 US every time a patch goes out, right? So and we know that they've got marketing budgets and stuff like that. So my whole point being, though, you start to put all these things in. The other thing that comes in that you and that really was that kind of realization on the other side was the story of Squadron. Do they want to risk releasing that to testers and not have it leak? Well, I would say after all these years, that's a hell no. They don't want that to leak. So you can start to see this very broad square type thing that we're fencing out, and where does it fall within that, right?
And that was kind of where our discussion was going, isn't it? We were saying I could see them doing having the hardcore backers, the people who bought the game and are backing the game and following the game, getting early release, getting early access, and then doing that final polish, almost like an Evocati release.
So the first question, now we've kind of framed it out right for you guys, is our frame correct? Is there something outside that, right? Because obviously if we don't have all the bits and pieces when we kind of do a bit of speculation, then we could be wrong. Right, but looking at that framing, that makes sense to me, and this goes along with all the pieces of information we have, right? So putting all those pieces of information, it's still broad, right? We've essentially got 6 months of a release window. We've got the PC and the console, and we've also got the story and spoiling, not spoiling, versus the testing bug freeness, right? So you can see there's a few sliders there, right? And I think the PC one and the console one is the easiest to work out. I don't think it matters too much because, again, most of us that are following the game right now are PC. And again, being a single player game, it doesn't affect us in any single way if someone else is playing it on a PC or a console. So I think that's the least relevant one for me, Agrid. I don't know if you agree with that.
100%. Like the co-op gameplay has been dead Squadron for years. I think the only way we'll get co-op gameplay is battles from that being ported into Arena Commander. Yeah. And whether we can port our battles into Arena Commander or whether they will have set battles put into Arena Commander, I cannot tell you. Yeah. But that's the only way I think we'll get that co-op.
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be some kind of multiplayer there. And that is a war thing. Again, that probably falls a little bit outside this, but I get your point. So the second part comes down to probably ironically the biggest part is the story versus the bug freeness, and it's a catch-22, right? And then obviously the last part is the time frame, and I think the time frame, Agrid, when we've waited this long, does 6 months really do anything for you? I don't care. It's really just like, is it coming at CitizenCon? Is it coming 6 months later?
I don't care if it. I'd love it to be at CitizenCon because I'm going to be at CitizenCon. So I'd love it to be there for that. And yet, in a strange, weird way, I'd also be happy if it wasn't, because if I'm a CitizenCon, I can't be playing it.
Yeah.
And I'll be in Europe, so I can't be playing it. So in a weird way, I'd be happy if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I want
well, see, that's the thing. Like, do we get a PC release at CitizenCon and 6 months later get a console release, or do we get them both at the same time, or
or
do the people that own it right now get it at CitizenCon and they kind of test it for everyone, and then everyone else gets it 6 months later? Like these are the questions that we're putting out there, and I guess that's what we want to hear in the comments, don't we, Agrid? We want to kind of hear what you guys think, because it's just a discussion, and we just want to see what pops out, because there is no, again, now we've framed it, there is no evidence that kind of points anywhere within that frame, but we've framed it so you can kind of at least go, well, here's the window, here's the boundaries, where do I think it is going to fall? And I know some people will go, no, the frame is bigger than that. But unless you've seen the information we've seen, you might fall outside that. Like, we've heard people that haven't seen the legal documents, so they're like 2025, or or the end of 25, or 2026, or 2030. That's not correct. Because of those legal documents, there are legal things they're held to that it has to come out in the first quarter of 2025. We are definitely getting this game by the end of Q1 2025. Right? I'm just going to put that to bed right now. Right? It's definitely happening. Right, you need to go look at those documents. Morphologist did a great video on it. We've talked about it many times before. I know DG360's looked at those documents. There are many content creators that'll tell you it's coming.
That's the question. How,
it's
how polished is it? And
how polished and when.
So there are a couple of questions that I have in terms of release.
Yeah.
Do they release it to those who've already got the game, which explains why it's been taken off the market for so long?
Yep.
And then X time later, put it on the market for everyone. And part of me says I can see that value in that. It gives a twofold advantage. One, those who back the game early, those who have the most faith, who've stuck to it.
Yep. It's kind of a little bit like what we've seen in the PTU and the EPTU.
Yep.
They've essentially made this EPTU that is for the more dedicated hardcore type of audience, and separated it from the regular PTU where anyone could pay $10 and just jump in. And I think that happened around about where that happened this time last year is when 318 dropped. And I just remember seeing massive content creators sitting there in a queue, bitching for an entire stream about how it was broken, but they didn't understand why it was broken. So to them, they just...
I got frustrated by that, because I know that people had, even though they'd opened the PTU, the test bed, they'd opened it to everyone before it went live. And nobody was going into the test. No one was testing it. They weren't getting the bulk testers in that live test area, And so when it went live, everyone tried to get in, and that caused those problems.
So let's take that then and put that back to our actual speculation on what we're talking about here, is what are the benefits of releasing the story to those dedicated people? I cannot see that not leaking. Right.
No,
so I go back to when they talked about the vertical slice. Could that be what we're getting at CitizenCon?
We may get that. Or we may get an early chapter or something like that.
Yeah, so it limits the release of the story.
Right. I think the game is coming, right? The question is, do they release the game to the early backers, to those who have the game already, who've purchased the game already, and then at a later point release everything else? The advantages of that is they give the early backers a reward for being an early backer. It gives them a chance to get any bugs that pop up dealt with.
It also allows them to, if they end it like a TV episode on a cliffhanger, it's something that you can stream and kind of bait people in, and the people that are playing it, they want to come back for more.
So even if they do a chapter, they can do that. But even if they do the whole release, there are certain advantages of that. The downside, and the big downside of that, is the story, because I cannot see the story not getting leaked, like you said.
Like the full thing. But again, if you're doing just a smaller piece, or can you do just a bunch of side missions?
That would be
You know what I mean? If you do side
Yep.
missions, it doesn't give it away. Or is it literally a custom mission that just tests the gameplay, that tests the AI,
So,
that tests the shooting mechanics and stuff like that?
so what you're suggesting there are other opportunities or other options they've got in terms of how you could release it.
Mm,
Um, so if you want to protect the story, there are avenues you can take.
mm,
But I cannot see a world where a streamer who
mm.
has access to the story does not leak the story and does
Yeah.
not do show gameplay of a
Oh,
story.
I'm not even talking about a streamer. I'm just talking
Right?
about a
Yeah,
regular Joe that goes, "Hey,
yeah,
look at this cool thing that's coming." You know?
yeah. Anybody getting on playing, getting the game, playing it, and
Mm,
putting the story out there and doing a full gameplay playthrough of
mm.
Squadron 42.
Well,
Because
I think back to when I think it was The Force Awakens dropped, and I was in a Discord, and literally America had a 2 week exclusivity
yeah,
essentially on Star Wars, and this guy just drops into the Discord and goes blah 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 blah, and spoils the whole movie,
yep. Well, it's
and
the
then just
same as
goes love you guys and just disconnects. So his whole joy was ruining the movie for everyone.
you look
Yeah.
at Old World or
Mm,
any other video, or even what is that the Bethesda game, the last one, Starfield.
mm-hmm.
You look at those. People were doing full gameplay,
Yep.
full gameplay
If they're
reviews
yeah, if
before it
they're
came out.
so this is the thing, Argrid, right? Like you can't. I don't see how they can realistically put that many people under NDA, right?
No,
So I think like you can see where we're talking through now, right? And if we're bringing the audience with us, I think that's probably where they're going to go. Some kind of vertical light, because that's the best thing of it. A vertical slice gives you the dedicated people an advanced type of thing. It allows them to test it, remove more bugs, and then a later release that has to be done by Q1. That seems to be the best of all worlds that I'm seeing. I don't know if you are seeing the same thing, but that seems to they did talk about a vertical slice way back when, which
mhm.
is 5-6 years ago now. I'd have to look up the video, but I'm pretty sure it's 5-6 years ago, and it's still a great video, by the way. If you
Yep.
haven't seen it, look it up. Vertical slice Star Citizen. It goes for a
The
couple of
other
hours.
the other way they could release is they announce the date,
Yep.
and on that date, people who've got the game get access to it,
Mm.
and Squad 42 becomes available in the store again.
But they protected the story for so
Yes,
long.
that's what I said.
I
And
cannot see.
note what I said. They
Mm,
put the game available in the store again at the same time,
mm.
right? So everyone gets access. The
So
problem with that,
yeah.
the downside of that,
Mm,
is if there are bugs that are discovered in the game, they've then got to try and do it. And so
yeah.
you've got this yin and yang of
Yeah.
advantages and disadvantages.
So you're essentially so the other part is like announce. Well, I think if I'm hearing you correctly, they announce a date at CitizenCon and then release it in that next 6 months afterwards.
well, if they said this is the date, either
Mm,
they release it and say it's live now,
mm,
and they put it on the sale. But Squadron's available on the market again that
mm,
people can buy. Everyone can play it, or they say
mm.
this date it's going to be live, and at that date they put it on sale.
Do you
At
know?
that point, because everyone can play it,
Mm,
the story doesn't get ruined. The downside of
mm,
that aspect is that if a bug pops up because so many people are
mm.
playing, you've got that problem that
Yeah.
other games get, which
It's
is avoided.
let's bring some other things in then. So it's little lines like you saw on the tickets for CitizenCon, like this. If there was ever a CitizenCon not to miss, this is the one. And I believe you said there was something similar in one of the monthly reports as well.
Well, in the last letter they sent out with the update, let's see if I can find it.
My point being, why you find it,
Yep.
is they are pointing to something big coming, right? Um, and I think the big thing is Squadron. And
Yeah. So
things that we've been told in the past, like it'll release at Manchester and stuff like that. Well, we were at Manchester
yeah.
this time, you know.
So the line from the letter they sent out, the update was, the countdown to the biggest Star Citizen event in history starts now.
Yeah,
Um,
and
that was,
I think that also explains the ticket sales.
yeah.
You know, they are hyping this. Oh man, if they're hyping this up and there's not a release, I'll be kind of annoyed.
Man,
Let's
if
be
they're
honest.
hyping this up and there's no release, I'll be peeved.
Never believe you again. No, but yeah, but
Algarve will go ballistic. Yeah.
yeah.
No, look, I could be wrong. I could just be reading what I want to see into those comments.
Yeah,
I could be deluding myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we know CIG are, what do you call it? Very passionate people, so they sometimes overpromise and underdeliver.
Yep.
But that's from passion, and that's what passionate people do. They've never been disingenuous in my
No.
book. They've always tried to hit targets, and then and sometimes they miss because they're trying
Yep.
to get there, but they don't. Well, look at the late 323 where there's a couple of things dropped out, but they're not going. No, that's the next patch. They're like, it's gonna be late, but we're gonna get it in the next patch.
We're going to do it as an
Yeah.
add-on to the patch a bit later.
That drop, any other company would drop it back to the next patch. They're going, no, we're just going to do a follow-up patch because it's not quite making it in. You know, that shows passion and drive, not disingenuousness.
Yeah, and I think it shows, as you said, passion, drive, dedication. But you know, and sometimes you make they always do their best intention. This is what we intend to do.
Yeah.
And I think as backers, sometimes we forget that.
Yeah.
Sergio will say, this is what we intend to do, this is what we hope to do, and we then say, you have said you're going to do this.
Especially if you are someone that doesn't follow it as intently as a lot of us do, right? Like in this down period that we're in right now, like when we get on a stream, I know that the people are there are the hardcore people, and I've said this before, like because they're the people that stay through the thick and thin. They're the people that are in concierge. They're the people that are going to get the VIP tickets, the stuff like that. I think that actually, now I think about it, that's one thing I want to talk about, the gala. Sorry to kind of tangent there crazily.
The gala, yep.
I think the gala, as you call it, yeah. Once the gala turns up, yeah, we should just start calling it. That should be our thing, the gala. But when the gala, but when the galas, when we know more information and those ticket sales come up, I think that's probably, I don't know. You correct me wrong. If you were going to say really hype things up and say this is where things are going to kick off, like they didn't really tell us much about that. But that would be where, like, a real big shiny event. That's where I'd announce it all.
You know, we know that they're having special guests at the gala. We know that they're doing shuttle tours to the studio. So we know it's not at the studio. We know it's not at the conference center.
Yep.
Because they've told us that. And we know they've got special guests.
And we know it's a smaller event. We just don't know how small.
It's a smaller event.
Yeah. So is that 500 people? Is that 100? Like you just don't know. Yeah, it's a tricky one. But again, I think that they've said they're going to announce that in the future, didn't they? And I think we would have more information from that. But like again,
if I was a betting man, I would say probably 200 people.
I was going to say, Agrid, we are betting men. We've bought tickets to go to CitizenCon and fly halfway around the world based on our speculation.
I am a betting man. I've taken long service leave. I've bought tickets to go to CitizenCon because I believe. And the reason I say that is because in the past, when I do believe they did that kind of big dinner in LA for one of the CitizenCons, and it was limited to 200 people.
No,
and
actually,
part of it.
Wasn't the one for the Nautilus? It was in Frankfurt or something like that?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I'm just going on memory. But I also recall when we were talking about, I was kind of messaging with Sandy and talking about visits to Australia and trying to organise bar citizens and stuff.
Yeah.
And from memory, she was saying they'd kind of see groups of about 200 people, because if it's beyond that, it loses that intimacy. And so, my view would be that their idea, if they're looking for an intimate gathering, would be to keep the group to that small.
It shows you how small that is then, because they had 1,300 VIPs last year, right?
Yeah.
So that is what, 20% type of thing of the VIP. So it just shows you how sought after. And I've heard the Nautilus tickets were $250 a plate. And I've heard Board Gamer speculated that he reckons they're going to be $500 to $600 each.
Wow,
that's how exclusive he. I think he could be right. Again, at 20.
Well, given the VIP tickets were $350, he could be right.
It's essentially doubling that price. And I don't think he's wrong in that, because it will be exclusive. Yeah, and how do you make it exclusive? Money seems to be the way they've been doing it. Well, look, there's a normal ticket and a VIP ticket. That's how they do it. They monetize it
Mm.
because how do you make it cut people out? You make it too expensive. Some people. It's sad that they do it that way. I wish it was more like a lottery, but then again, some people you might win the lottery ticket but can't afford to go still. So,
Yeah.
and how do you determine the more hardcore? They've already put more money in because they've been here for longer. So I can see why they go the money route. Is it fair? Probably not, but it's probably the fairest you're going to get. Yeah, I think we just kind of put this out to the comments now, Agrid, and kind of ask what you guys think. Like this is kind of where Agrid and I have kind of been at for the last kind of 2 years, just building up to this stuff. And I really do think whatever happens at CitizenCon, it is the beginning of release. Whether it's a date, whether it's a vertical slice, whether it is the actual game, it all kicks off there. That is the either the start of the hype train or the the end and the release.
And I think it kind of starts off like I know that CIG want to do a world tour.
Yep.
A world promotional tour.
Yep.
And they want to do that in 25.
Yep. Which will be along with the release of the game, obviously.
And I think that CitizenCon will be the start point of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Whether it's the release of the actual game, whether it's a vertical slice, whether it's an announcement of the date, but it's coming in CitizenCon. But anyway, what do you guys think for the release of Squadron 42? How do you think they'll go about it? What do you think of the pluses and the minuses? Let us know.
Yeah. Where do you think it's going to land between CitizenCon and the end of Q1? Do you think they're going to go more for a bug-free experience or a story tight knit? I don't think it's story tight knit. Vertical slice, no vertical slice, all those things that we've framed out. And if you think it falls outside the frame that we've built, please provide receipts. Don't just say, I think you're wrong. Please, because again, you can say we're wrong. I've got no problem with that. But I want to see evidence because, again, we do a lot of research on this. And if you can provide receipts, I will totally say, yeah, the frame's changed. But you're just saying, I feel you're wrong. Give me a receipt, please.
I'm happy for you to say we're wrong, but tell us why you think we're wrong. Give us those reasons why.
Constructive feedback, not just slander, essentially. Yeah.
Feedback, constructive criticism, always accepted. Always appreciate.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note.
All right. Don't forget to oh god, I missed the button now, Grid. Like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you everyone that went the extra mile on the end credits on the video. He's been Algrid.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.